You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
All right, let's do the damn thing. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. We inch closer to the deadline. Nick Alberga, Dave Pagnotta, the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take presented by Bet365. Dave, where the fuck are the trades for the Maple Leafs?
Today's not the deadline. It's Friday. Give it time. Tree's got work to do. He's got to figure, shit out. He'll try. Give it time. You'll see some moves.
The longer this goes for me, the more concerned and scared I get. I won't lie. It tells me there's no market for any of these guys. That's what it tells me. I know the big boys, the dominoes have to fall, but it tells me it's a buyer's market, and that's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah, it is. It is a buyer's market. Now, notwithstanding the moves that were made yesterday with Nashville, where they got a second-round pick from Michael McCarron, a third-round pick for Cole Smith, those are in 3 years, 3 drafts from now. So not get caught up in the fact that they got a second for McCarron. Yeah, they did, but they got to wait 3 more drafts before that comes into the equation, at the very least. But yeah, you're right. It is a buyer's market, primarily because there are so many options available. And it's not just because, there's 10 teams selling. It's because, teams like St. Louis and Vancouver have like 50 guys available. So, that clogs up the market a little bit. Some other teams, Toronto's listing on a bunch of their guys. So, there's so many different pieces that are available that everyone's starting to narrow things down now. You are right that some teams are waiting for like that one big domino to fall, and then everybody panics at that point and then makes reactionary moves. But we haven't gotten there yet. So let's see kind of where things play out. The moves made yesterday were depth-specific moves for teams that needed to address those areas. Minnesota's not done. They're still looking to bring in, another center, second-line center if they can. Vegas is right up against it, so take some maneuvering, but they needed to fill a hole in their the fourth line. So they do that with Smith.
You know what I was thinking could have been a good year for the Maple Leafs to be buyers. Like, you try to put yourself in those shoes, in that predicament. And a lot of these teams who are perennial contenders who view themselves as playoff teams, at the very least, are waiting things out. And I think there's just a bit concern, I think, at least for me in this market, because I just don't know which way this market's going to go. But do you think for the first time in a while we actually get chaos the next couple of days? I know there's been a lot of conversation. The Robert Thomas fever pitch yesterday still hasn't happened, but is that your feeling that we're going to get a lot of activity, between now and Friday?
There should be. Yeah. There's no guarantees guys like Robert Thomas get moved because there's a ridiculously high price. What they asked for from Buffalo was significant. What they've asked for Utah was, from what I heard, nuts. So, unless those prices drop, that caliber player may stick around for a little bit. And look, rightfully so. That type of player isn't always available. So if you're going to trade him, you gotta get a premium. But you have all these other pieces. You have Ristolainen, you have Coleman, you have some of the other guys, Mike Bunting and Haula in Nashville, that are supposed to move. Falk is expected to move. Like, there's still going to be a decent number of names that are going to be moving on. By all accounts, it's just a matter of how many. It's still tough to say, because now we're getting to the point. Usually 2 days before the trade deadline, everybody kind of hunkers down a little bit and tries to outsmart everybody else. So we may not see too much activity today unless somebody bites down and just pulls it off, and then you see that domino effect. I do think we'll see a little bit of a trickle effect going into Friday, and then what I hope is a big Friday, because it'll keep all of us busy.
Very true. And talking to the powers that be here at DFO and the Nation Network, I think we're going to have a Pagnotta cam. So make sure you don't pick your nose coming up on Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go. We got rehearsals tomorrow, so we'll see.
Okay.
I'll see where my special little box is. I think I'm just by myself. I don't think anybody really wants to talk to me. I'm just like hovered in a corner somewhere, but we'll see. It'll be fun. We got the full panel and everything, Merrick and everybody doing that, and then guys chiming in from across the country. We get a Leaf move. You get to come on and talk about how much you miss Mitch Marner. So that'll be good.
Yeah, there's a likelihood I'll mention that name, and lucky for all of you, get a first-hand aspect of what it's like to hang out on a Friday night, or in Jamaica for 7 days. Watch him be on his phone for 4 hours straight. So that's coming up on Friday. Our Super Chat charity partner is Sick Kids. Want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. Why are the Leafs being linked to Robert Thomas? It does not make any sense. Would that be a quick conversation? Hey, we're interested. Hey, okay, what do you have to give? Nothing. Okay, bye. Is that how the conversation goes between Doug Armstrong and Brad Treliving?
I think every team is checked in to at least see what the price is. So if I'm Tree, you have to do that. You got to make sure, because you never know. Maybe they like a particular asset that you've got. Nyes is the name that I think has popped up. So I don't think that's a conversation starter for Toronto. So that probably doesn't move things along for them. But, is there another piece? Well, you won't know until you call. So I think they checked in, certainly, but I don't think it's gotten too aggressive in that, unless Toronto does have a change of heart and decides, okay, Matthew Nyes is the guy that we want to center this around. And different than last season, because I'm sure people will bring it up that, hey, well, they didn't want to move him to Carolina for Rantanen, but Rantanen wasn't signed and there was no guarantee that he would sign at that time. And then obviously they said no, and nothing ended up happening anyway. At least in this scenario, you've got a player who's locked in for another 6 years, 5-6 years, whatever it is, and he's only 26. So makes a little bit more sense in that regard, but I don't get the sense that they've pushed the needle much on that because of it. So probably not.
Fair enough. This reeks of Timo Meier from a couple years ago, where if I'm the buyer, I'm wondering why in the world you're trying to deal Robert Thomas. And that's ultimately where I land right now. Unless the package is just so extraordinary, it's like, oh, I get it from the St. Louis perspective. Not to mention, we all think Alex Steen's going to be the GM of the St. Louis Blues squad in like 3 months from now, right? Like Doug Armstrong, I don't know. Yeah. Like, can you tell us more on what's happening there?
Yeah, well, that's a planned transition. That starting next season, the keys get handed over to Alex Steen. Now, Doug Armstrong's going to stay on in an advisory role, and they are talking hand in hand. This isn't just Army just handling things and then, all right, here's the roster, Steen, go have fun. Like they are. There is communication, obviously, because you want to set him up for some success. So, which also leads me to believe he's on the same page in terms of what direction this team is going to go in. They're listing on everybody. They're listing on, like I said, they're listing on Falk, on Shen, on Suter, on Parayko, and so on, Kyrou, etc. So it's not just exclusively Robert Thomas, but we'll see how many type of moves they make over these next, with 50 hours, 52 hours, whatever the hell it is. Like there's still a lot of activity out there. It's just, again, everybody's now trying to outsmart one another and make things happen, and which is at this time of year around the deadline.
It's a struggle for me to believe Doug Armstrong specifically is going to settle into an advisory role. Is this the first, or maybe we've heard it a bunch of times already, but do you think we're going to hear that name in the summer from a Toronto perspective? At least due diligence on the Doug Armstrong front?
I mean, due diligence never hurt anybody, so maybe. Yeah. I'm not expecting it, but it's possible, I guess. I'll say that, but it's not what I'm expecting. I think he wants to stay in St. Louis for a little bit. Maybe he retires afterwards. Maybe he does pursue other opportunities. I would find it a little bit odd that if he was accepting of this transitional period, handing the keys over to Steen, and then just say, all right, thanks, guys, piss off, I'm going somewhere else. I don't think that's the mindset, but you never know. If Toronto or another team wants to pursue him and he's willing to listen, make him an offer he can't refuse and go from there. But I'm not expecting it from Toronto unless everybody's doing a very good covert operation job here in pushing the message forward that it's Tree and we're giving him that shot to fix this. I'm just not expecting it.
Are you hearing anything on the Treleaven front? Like, not to read too much into this, but I think if they're giving him the keys to run this deadline, I think he's here past this season. Maybe I'm wrong on that front, but do you get the sense there's an appetite even for a president's role to bring that back potentially?
No, nothing that I've heard. And Keith Pelly was pretty adamant about this, that, our Treliving he's head of hockey ops, and he's the one link between ops and ownership / Pelly. So I don't get that sense. I'm with you. You're not giving the guy the opportunity to fix this thing and to run a trade deadline. Excuse me. And then just saying, okay, peace out in 2 months or a month later. It doesn't make sense. And again, everything I've heard is that they're going to let him give him a leash and let him fix or run this deadline and try to fix, some of the holes that they've got come the summer, which is it's either draft time, it's either free agency, it's both, and so on going into next year.
Fair enough. You got any juice for us? I know we put out some stuff yesterday. You did specifically McMahon, Lawton, OEL, Benoit, Michelli, normal suspects. I think the name that intrigues me right now for the Maple Leafs perspective, you talk about Mitch Marner, is the guy they got in the sign and trade with Vegas, Nicolas Waugh. It just seems like a couple teams out there think this guy could put them over the top or at least add depth to their roster. I think there could be a good fit there from the Oilers' perspective. Is Nicolas Waugh a guy who could go here over the next couple days?
Yeah. Well, look, about a month ago, I mentioned that Waugh and OEL were two guys that the Oilers were looking at, or that fit what they're looking at specifically. And lo and behold, those are the guys that they've been looking at. So I mean, they made their move on the D by bringing in Connor Murphy. I think both Waugh and Lawton are two guys that they have interest in. How far along that goes, we'll have to wait and see. They're trying to free up more cap space. They're still trying to find a home for Andrew Mangiapane. In order to free up extra cap space. They have a little bit of leeway now. They got an extra 1.15 out of it. That allowed them to make the Murphy trade along with Janmark going on LTIR. They want to free up the rest of that or more of that, excuse me, at least another $1 million in order to make some other type of move. The other thing, too, is the Leafs have all 3 retention slots available. If they want to retain on a contract, they can. They've got the money and they've got the space to do it. If it means we're going to maximize our return on these guys, well, they got 3 guys that they can do that with. And, if you're Edmonton and you're right up against the cap, you got $200,000 in space. It's a lot easier to free up another $600,000-700,000 or less to bring on, let's say, Scott Lawton at $775,000 if the Leafs eat half of his 1.5 right now. And it makes it appealing to the Oilers, makes it appealing to other teams too. Waugh's got the extra year, on his deal. So his $3 million can drop to 1.5, but then you're eating that 1.5 next year too. That's something they got to figure out. And same with McMahon. It's status quo contract wise. There's nothing really to report. Nothing new anyway, with respect to the Leafs and Bobby McMahon's contract talks going into today. So, and he's got a $1.35 million hit. So slash that in 2. Makes it super appealing for teams that are right up against the cap or just want to have more wiggle room. And that might entice them to add added extra value, or instead of a third, it goes to a second. Instead of a second, it's a late first or something along those lines. It makes it a little more palatable when you're bringing in a guy with those capabilities at half of what their cost is.
Personally, I think the Oilers make a lot of sense from the Maple Leafs perspective to get together on a trade. Now, Andrew Mangiapane takes one shift in the AHL last night just for reasons, CBA reasons, but he's going to be right back up here with the Oilers. It's interesting to me because the Leafs were sniffing around on July 1, as we both know, and they are right there till the end, as far as we know, on Andrew Mangiapane. So they could have easily signed Mangiapane and been in this predicament. Do you see a fit there still? We know the correlation directly between Treleaven and Mangiapane to their days in Calgary. Is there a scenario where Andrew Mangiapane is finally a Maple Leaf here?
I could see it being a possibility, but it's going to depend on what the Oilers add to this deal. You're not just going to move out Lawton or McMahon or both and just take back Mangiapane and a 5th-round pick. You're going to have to – the Oilers are going to have to incentivize them to make the cap money work. And presumably, potentially eat and retain on whoever they're trading back to give them even more wiggle space and give them more breathing room with the cap. Mangiapane at the time, a lot of teams, including the Leafs and obviously the Oilers, thought that he'd be able to get back to like 50-point status. Obviously hasn't happened this year. And at $3.6 million, not just for the rest of this season, but next season as well, you're dedicating a decent chunk to the cap. Now, that's effectively, as the world turns and the cap world evolves, it's a third-line player. But with where they are in the cap, do you want to allocate 3.6 to it? That's what they've got to figure out. And again, it may be worth it if they're incentivized. If the Oilers add some extra pieces to it, it could be something they look at, and then they can worry about it in the summer, or they can buy him out, or they can do whatever. But I think there's a pathway there, assuming and presuming that the Oilers, cough up a little bit extra in order to sweeten the pot.
So when the Leafs finally make a trade here over the next couple of days, we're going to get a prime indication, I think, or a starter indication of what this team actually is looking for. But do you get the sense of the return that they're asking for on some of their guys? Is it picks? Is it prospects? Is it guys who can play in this league right now? Because I think for me, I'm just trying to figure out how they feel they can contend next year if they're bringing in prospects and picks. Whereas, how do you turn this roster over quick enough to try to make the playoffs next year is my question.
Well, those questions will be answered in the summer. I don't think unless you're making an impact type of move right now, and you're bringing in somebody with term, he's in his 20s, probably mid to late 20s, but somebody who's controllable for a little while. Unless you're going in that direction now, which is, I guess, possible, but it doesn't seem like that's what they're focused on. Then you're probably just trying to fill your cupboard. And then you'll worry about those holes in the summer, worry about it around draft, and try to fill some others via free agency going a different route. And I've talked about this. We've talked about this before. It's not a deep free agent pool. So, manage your expectations, but at least fill some of those voids that you're leaving or creating now at this time that way, and then try to fill the bigger holes via the trade market, and then utilize some of these assets in order to do it. Can you package guys up and get a late first round pick from somebody? Maybe that's what they're going to, certainly try to do. I don't think, one player is going to get them a first round pick per se, unless you're like OEL is probably the prime candidate that would include a first round pick in a package. But they've set a pretty decent price for him, and I'm not convinced they want to move him. It's got to be make us an offer we can't refuse type of scenario, and they're probably not getting a first round pick back for Carlo. So you got to kind of see where things go. And yesterday, Vegas and Minnesota gave 28 picks. If you're Toronto, are you interested in picks beyond this draft? Are you looking for 27, 28 picks? I'm not sure exactly where that is. I know they want to bring in somebody or something now for this summer, but will the bulk of it be after this draft? I'm not sure. And again, packaging up pieces in order to get picks, higher picks, might make sense, but you got to find the right team that's willing to do that.
I'll be honest, I'm losing a bit of hope here as you get closer and closer to Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. At any rate, looking forward to tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips of post-game reaction to this game against the Devils. I'm going to hop on there, and we'll probably talk more so about the trade deadline as opposed to the actual game here against the Devils. Another battle with a team that's not making the Stanley Cup playoffs. Can only wonder what that product's going to look like. If that's the case, just get out of your system. Play some 6-5 hockey. Please entertain me. Speaking of entertainment, Aaron Ward, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, is going to drop by in about 10 minutes from now. I did a bit of research for this interview. His final year of his career, he was traded on deadline day to the Anaheim Ducks. So we'll talk to Wardle coming up in about 10 years, get his perspective, get his thoughts. Never dull an opinion is Aaron Ward, so he's coming up in about 10. At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Go ahead, Dave.
We got to ask him what he did in Anaheim when he got there. Make sure you ask him about that. In case I forget, make sure you ask him what his final months in the NHL were in Orange County. Pretty fun.
Sounds like a really good story. So we'll find that out coming up in about 10 minutes here at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. This episode is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Feel that buzz in the air. It's not in the YouTube chat here as Zach and producer Vic talk about their Tim's picks. It's because roll-up season is officially back. You can still play on the couple supplies last. And don't forget, you can also play on the Tim's app for even more chances to win just for doing what you already do, grabbing your Tim's. Roll-up season runs till March 22nd. So don't wait and miss your chance. For more details, visit timhortons.ca/rollup. Roll-up to win only at Tim's. I still remember growing up playing roll-up. Yeah, I know it's a staple. I'm happy they're back on the cups, man. That was really pissing me off. In fact, I had a buddy who works there, and I'm like, dude, we got to bring this back. So I'm happy it's back at the very least.
Yeah, it's always a nice little treat right at the end, right? See
Yeah.
what you got. Do I get another one? No?
Yeah.
Damn it. All right,
Yeah.
move on to the next one.
We all get fired up over that. So you got the Leafs and Devils tonight. Anything you want to add? I guess my intrigue lies with Easton Cowan playing 8:23 last game. What does he play tonight? What's the plan? Do they give Stolars a start against his hometown team since returning 1-3-1, 3.18, 894? What exactly are you going to be viewing or tuning in tonight for, Dave?
It's probably going to be a bad game.
Great promo.
Quite frankly.
You're not like the Prime team who was telling me it's the battle of two playoff teams going toe-to-toe here tonight. Remember that?
No, these are two shit teams, and it's not gonna be overly entertaining, I would imagine. I mean, it might be. It might just be a gong show, so maybe. I don't know. Does anybody prop up their value tonight? We'll see. Does anybody get sit? Does anybody get sat tonight? We'll see that too, because we're starting to see guys being, scratched for roster management purposes or whatever the hell the new term is. It changes every year. So I don't know. I'm looking at that, and also from Jersey side, they got some pieces that they're looking to move. They're listing on a bunch of guys. So that's honestly what I'm more curious about. Maybe it is a gong show type of game and gives me a reason to stay awake through it, because it's tough watching these Leaf games lately.
Oh, it's painful. Hashtag asset protection, I think, is what we're going with. And since we're on the Devils front, is there any chance that Sheldon Keefe loses his job? Like, I don't endorse that. And he's had a tough year, and injuries has been a big factor as to why. Is there any way the Devils make a coaching change this summer?
I'd be surprised. Injuries, you don't want the injuries to be the excuse, but
no.
Shit, sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. That's what you've been dealt with. Plus, similar to Toronto. What pieces, like the pieces that he has aren't working. And, you got to find some outside help in order to do this. You can't use the coach as a scapegoat every friggin' year for every team that disappoints. Because if you think he's a shit coach and then suddenly, you go on a heater, I mean, it happens all the time. Just keep your mouth shut. Like, everybody was shitting all over Lindy Ruff. Buffalo sucks, and what the hell's Lindy Ruff doing? And blah, blah, blah.
True.
Well, they're doing pretty good now. So, sometimes it's the pieces that you have. And if they're not able to be put together properly, it's not always on the coach. It's roster construction is a big part of it.
Julian's got a question here in the chat about the Anaheim Ducks, specifically Aaron Ward's final NHL team. Pavel Mintyukov, is he a guy who could make sense as a potential return in a deal at some point here for the Maple Leafs?
Maybe. I think they're trying to package him up still, because he's still kind of available. They're trying to package him up to bring in, like, they want to upgrade their blue line. And they want a bigger fix, a better fix on that back end. So, you could package him up with other pieces in order to bring in more, stability on the blue line, and also bringing somebody with term. So maybe from an overall package side of it, but I haven't heard too much lately. I know the Leafs checked in at some point earlier on in the season when he, kind of asked for a trade, but didn't ask for a trade. But I honestly haven't heard much since. It's possible. I just personally haven't heard it.
Fair enough. That'll be the big topic of focus over the next couple of days, what the Maple Leafs will do, who they're looking at. It's been really, really quiet in terms of guys who can make sense for this team in terms of acquiring. Like, even there was some word the other day that Kiefer Sherwood may be back on the market. He could have made sense in the Maple Leafs perspective. But if you had to handicap things, who do you think is the first guy to go here? Like, I think that's interesting too. Like, you bring up a good point, like asset protection. Is tonight the first look? Like, they have a game tonight, then tomorrow on Broadway, do we see guys sit for trade purposes, right?
Yeah, and it's not just going to be here. It's going to be league-wide. We're going to start to see more guys, do that. The only reason that the Preds played Cole Smith yesterday is because they had to. There wasn't enough time to change the roster. I don't think they even had an extra guy, quite frankly. So he sat, played 3 seconds of a shift, and then that was it, and off to Vegas. It's tough to, like, I can't, all the suspects, you could say could be a candidate to be the first guy to fall, because I don't think anything has really gotten too far along too far ahead of somebody else. Like the conversations with Waugh and with McMahon and Benoit and Lawton and so on and so on. Like they're continuous. They're going back and forth on a variety of these guys. Would it shock me if any of them are scratched? No, because those conversations are ongoing. But as of now, as of 11/26, I don't think they're far along the process, or at least coming into the show anyway, that they're far along the process where it's like, okay, we've got some traction here. We're going to make sure that Scotty can't play or Bobby's not playing or whatnot. I think they're getting there, but I don't think they're there just yet this morning.
And what's the root of that? Is it because there's a lot of these big names available up the middle where it's like the Leafs are part of the secondary/tertiary market? Is that the case? Because I don't remember a year where rentals are like on the back burner, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just because there's so many options, right? And because now we know the cap projections moving forward, teams are able to properly map out and plan things out for, not just now, but next season and the season after that. So some teams are going, well, okay, I can give this for a rental, but if I give a little bit extra, I can get this guy and he's got another 2 years on his contract. So everybody's kind of just going back and forth and evaluating. There is legitimate interest in their pieces, like in Lawton, McMahon, Waugh. I mentioned Benoit and a couple others. I think Lorentz even. Excuse me. But, everybody's kind of just evaluating what all those options are. That's why the 2 days before the deadline that's always the day where things kind of get to a weird quiet point until that first big domino falls, and then just the floodgates typically open. But we're not there yet, obviously.
Definitely not. And that could be the conversation around the league. It's been quiet from actually a trade production standpoint. And me as the big time trade guy, I like this because I think Friday could be busy at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button again. So the Leafs visiting New Jersey Devils tonight, the New York Rangers tomorrow. We're going to bring in today's guest now. It's 3-time Stanley Cup champion. It is Aaron Ward. Wardo, thank you so much for doing this. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I'm stepping into the ring with Evander Holyfield. This is like, when you start talking about Toronto, you're opening yourself up to a whole new clientele of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, all I could think about is how are we going to radio you today? What are you going to say that's going to piss off this market? So bring
the funniest part is I'm thinking it's your opportunity because I'm that little budgie that sits out there and cheeps, at you at some of your takes. And here I am standing in front of you. You've got me.
No, thanks so much for doing this, bud. It's great to reunite with you a bit here and obviously talk some Maple Leafs. But firstly, me and Pagnotta were talking about earlier on that you were traded on deadline day, the final year of your NHL career. What did you get up to in Anaheim? That's the big question Dave wanted me to ask you here.
So I'll tell you, the funny part about that trade deadline was it was almost like a factory of guys just going out the door on delivery trucks. So we had 7 guys traded in 1 hour. And I remember our equipment managers actually didn't put up practice jerseys with any color. With just guys were wearing any color because they knew that at some point they were gone. So Jimmy Rutherford actually set up his office in the medical room so that when you came off the ice from practice, you took probably 12, 15 steps, and there's a medical table, and there he is sitting with his computer and his phone, and he's telling you where you go. So I remember Eric Cole high-fiving me because he was heading out, and I was heading in the medical room to be told I was getting traded to Anaheim. And as I walked out, Joe Corvo was coming in, high-fived him going in, and I think he headed out to Washington. So what I got up to in Anaheim, I started to realize that it was the coming of ages and it was time to consider retirement. And I was going to try and take that one last kick at the playoffs. And when I got there, I found out that Randy didn't really find himself on board with me coming to Anaheim. Randy made it clear, Randy Carlyle, that is, made it pretty clear that when asked his opinion on whether or not Anaheim should bring Aaron Ward in and Lubomir Visnovsky, that Viz got the thumbs up and I got we can live without him.
Okay, good to know.
I was actually, the funny part, I heard you guys earlier talking, I'm going to use the term roster management for the number of times I got scratched by Scotty Bowman early in my career. I just was roster managed in September, not February, March. So, and also Randy roster managed me a couple of times when I was in Anaheim.
You had extra free time in Anaheim, didn't you?
I might
utilize
have.
that.
Okay, I know where Dave's going with this. Dave wants me to fact that maybe I took advantage of Newport Beach. I rented a beautiful place. It was my farewell song to the National Hockey League. So I had a great view of the Pacific Ocean every single morning. it was fantastic. So I lived right there at Newport Beach on the boardwalk. I might have employed a homeless guy there on the beach that every day after practice, he was to put ice in the styrofoam coolers I had set up in the backyard that were filled with beer. So I slid a 50 under the mat, and he took care of that for me perfectly. And every day I ended up coming back with maybe one or more teammates than I did the day before. We had great lead. I made sure the mental state of the Anaheim Mighty Ducks was not challenged. Like, we were very relaxed and composed and not stressed.
Glue guy, I love that. And someday we got to get you on with Jay Rosehill. Yes, exactly. We got to get you on with Rosie as well, because I'm not sure he was the biggest fan of Randy Carlyle either, as people know on this podcast. So we'll get you on.
Hey, I'll give you a little something. So while I was on that network there in Canada, TSN, I might have been asked to evaluate, I think it was 2011, Randy's performance. And I might have used the words that the reason he was failing, he was sucking the life and the fun out of the game. And I had 7 guys, and I counted the phone numbers, 7 guys from Anaheim call me while I got off that. I did it live. They were watching, and they were like, just keep at it. And he was fired 2 days later. So in some way, I feel like maybe I take some credit, and guys might owe me for their mental happiness down in Anaheim.
Just the ultimate glue guy on and off the ice, clearly.
Yeah.
Even years later. Helping
Hey,
out the
see me at a bar, I'll pick up a tab. I don't have gator arms. I can find my wallet.
Yeah. What a guy. Have you been keeping tabs a little bit on these Leafs here in Toronto? And can you pinpoint what the hell might be going wrong or might have gone wrong with this club this season?
Okay, so beating a dead horse, so you already know the first theme I'm going to come up with. And so put that name aside, right? So the Marner situation isn't just like the lack of presence of a guy in your lineup. It's the influence and the impression he makes upon all the guys that he's playing with. So the truth is, when you got Matthews and Nylander, and I'm going to guess that everybody in Toronto right now is kind of out on Nylander, feels like the effort, the attitude, not indicative of when times are tough, that you're showing optically a little better body language, a little better attitude. So we'll focus on Matthews. Matthews is not getting near the opportunities or the time in the zone, the placement of the puck in the zone where he used to, all right? And so I'm going to say McMahon has done a serviceable job. There's a reason why teams around the National Hockey League are looking at him, but they're not looking at him in the role of a top-line player. They're looking at him somewhere further down the line. So that should be something for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the fans, the whoever, to evaluate. Okay, so in some capacity, he's been handicapped by what he's had in his line, and it's not the fault of McMahon, right? So the presence that the Mitch Marner had mass influence over the entire game, the truth. And so, full disclosure, I work for the company that provides the player and puck tracking to the National Hockey League, SMT. My boss is a diehard, Curtis Harvey, lives there in the Toronto area, diehard Toronto Maple Leafs fan. So at nauseum, we get to hear about the things that are going right and going wrong with Toronto, and lately it's gone wrong. But if you take a unbiased perspective and you take your fan hat off and you're not anti-Toronto, you're looking at the situation saying defensively, this team has massively struggled. And the truth is, where in past they've been able to cover up, put lipstick on a pig in some bad games by just simply outscoring teams and developing offensive chances, keeping the puck down there, controlling it, where the opponent's not in your end, kind of in the soccer mentality that the closer to their net, the less opportunity to score. The zone entry alone against Toronto. And I remember watching the game, first game back in the Olympics, and Toronto played against Tampa. And I could not get over, like, this almost looked like, and it's not an insult, an NHL team playing an AHL team when going through the neutral zone. They had it at will. They just entered Toronto's zone at will. And you look at the numbers, last year they weren't particularly good. They were 26th in zone entry, 5 versus 5. And the teams had an unbelievable ability to set up their offense, get time in the zone. This year, they're 32nd. They're tied for last. They're just not getting it done defensively in their zone. Add to that, if you look at the opportunities that they have in the power play, so I'm going to key in Marner on this one specifically. Him driving the play, right? So last year versus this year per 20, they've almost got half as many goals in the power play as they did last year. So this is just 1 year to the next. So offense has gone down on the power play. This is an influence of a player that we all knew that could take a puck to the neutral zone, get it across the blue line, force the team that they're attacking to get on their heels, and allow a guy like Matthews to slide into place, Riley to slide into place, his teammates, whoever's on his line, an opportunity to get to the place they need to be to develop that offense. The lack of Marner in this lineup has not been replaced, and it's just a fact. It's not a rip. It's not a criticism. It's just fact. In this modern day, it wasn't working for Marner here in Toronto. They had to move him out, and what they were unable to do is replace that presence, and that is the absolute struggle for this team.
Fair enough. I mean, so for the first time in a decade here, they're sellers, and it's unfortunate because it's a buyer's market. But if you're Brad Treliving, what's your primary objective this week?
Okay, so you have two polar opposite perspectives. Mine, I would err on the side of just be patient. There are circumstances around the National Hockey League that have played out. I was in one, and I know we had the gap between it with the lockout where we were horrendous from 2002 to 2003, 3 to 4. Then all of a sudden, the core base of the team stayed in Carolina in 2006, and we just added pieces around veteran players that fit the situation. I would err on the side of patience. I would let expiring contracts happen over the summer and just let things work itself out, however it needs to work itself out. Now, the opposite mentality is blow it up. And if I'm going to blow it up, knowing that Toronto has traded away first rounder after first rounder after first rounder, consecutively trying to achieve something they have yet to achieve, I would honestly look at what does a Matthews bring to the table? And I know there's like conversation about LA as a situation that could or might fit. And, you never know where these things are truth-wise if you're, seeing them on TikTok where I got it from. Joking. But you do have to look at, if I'm Toronto right now, I seriously am contemplating how do I bring back pieces that will just so impact my team in a way it gets us back to a place where we're not unifocused on trying to get our captain or our right winger all the looks. I would consider Matthews offers. And that would have to come because let's be honest, it's Toronto and it's the market. Whatever trade you make for a guy like Matthews, it's going to be criticized, going to be dissected for the next 10 years. So you have to be absolutely certain when you're making this trade that this is going to unfairly favor your team. So it's got to come back with a multitude of picks, high picks, because let's be honest, the system isn't exactly packed with a ton. Like Toronto's gotten a lot out the door in the past in order to try to get these pieces. I'm looking at, first rounders. I'm looking at active players with youth on their side that that you can get signed and will be a part of this process. So I'm just going to hypothetically throw out, you look at a team like Chicago, okay? I'm going to look at a Nazar. I'm going to look at a Spencer Knight, who's played really well. He's going to solidify your goaltending position for a while. I'm going to look at first rounders. I'm going to look so many places from teams that might value having an American name come in, be the symbolic piece that now represents their organization. Matthews is willing and happy to go to. So again, I'm not out there. It's not for fodder. It's not for someone going on Twitter. This is going to happen. I'm trying to look at like the structure of a deal where you can look at a team and say, okay, this will fit for us because they have that wealth and it achieves both the immediate and the future, because I do not like what Toronto does not possess right now, and that is what's coming down the pipeline.
So it's safe to say that this isn't necessarily a quick turnaround for the Leafs. They're not going to suddenly go into do whatever they got to do now ahead of the deadline, make some moves in the summer around the draft in July, and suddenly get back on track next season to be, a top 3 contender in the Atlantic. You think this is going to take a little bit of time here for them to get their ducks back in a row?
Who's gifting them the top line player? Who's the winger that's going to play for Matthews? Is someone guys they want to part with it that isn't going to cost you $1 million? So I think it's reality is what I'm talking about, right? So you'd love it. You'd have to know right now, from an attack standpoint and a process standpoint, who are the guys in the offseason in free agency that you feel with certainty, looking at the optics test and the numbers test, will that player archetype fit with Nylander and Matthews and reclaim some of the Marner feel? And there's still no guarantee to that. So I just firmly believe that patience is your best play in this moment. You're looking at like everybody's going to try and fleece you for Lawton. Because right now, what Lawton is a depth player that's going to play on a contender right now that's going to fill probably a fourth, third line play unless there's injuries involved. And what he possesses is the ability to shot block passes, plays in all situations. Like he's that glue guy that everybody's looking for. McMahon, I'm sure they're also looking at that saying, hey, listen, this guy has from baptism by fire standpoint been put under a pressure situation with these two guys and actually fared very well based on his skill set. So maybe they're looking at that. That's how the guy fits. Ekman Larson, looking at it like get what you can right now. I don't think you're playing with guys' feelings. It's a business. Your pieces of meat. Don't do what's best for the players. This trade deadline hard coming from a player. You have to worry about your future and get everything you can from a replenish the cupboard standpoint in Toronto. It is not bare, but it's not. I mean, your stockpile is not there.
You're right. And to your point, I think there's this perception, at least narrative, that the organization wants to drive out there that they're going to compete next year. And I'm just not sold on that right now. I think there's more heavy lifting to be done over the next couple of years. But I was going to ask you about the trade deadline specifically. Did reference you were dealt on deadline day in your final year of your career to the Anaheim Ducks, as we spoke about earlier on. But what's deadline time like as a player in the NHL? Because I think we forget to humanize situations sometimes.
So I would compare it to the same idea of what happens in the locker room when a team knows the coach is gone. Like there's a shoe dropping, you're waiting for it, and you want it to happen. So there's an anxiety and anticipation to trade deadline. If you're a player getting traded, you're like, it depends on the stage of your career. Older guys are thinking about the fact that, are they going to see their family? What does it mean? Are they going to be comfortable? Are they going to be living in a hotel? Those types of things. From a younger standpoint, when you're a young guy, you're really honestly looking at, are you going to flourish in this new environment? You're hoping, crossing your fingers in anticipation of getting a team that actually does want you as you try and elevate your situation. If you're a guy that's not being traded, there's like a sickness to sitting around knowing that your buddies are gone, right? So even though there's a euphoric feeling to going through a season and you look at the anticipation of the playoffs, and you've gone on a journey together, you've shared the war scars and all these things, same thing happens when you lose. Only you can have that commonality with the guy that sits beside with you or the guy that's across from you, that the level of like stress and duress in your brain and not wanting to come to the rink, that these guys are going to be gone. And there's like almost an ambiguity to the whole thing too, because you're both almost envious they're going to get a second chance. And there's another part of you who's settled, like, just let's get this mental stress over with. So the locker room is not an environment come trade deadline that you're excited about. And even worse, which is an experience I never had, right? So basically we still had the AOL dial-up internet when I was getting traded. You had to wait a while. And the sources that anticipated where you're going, I looked at it, and the year I was going in 2009, I was rumored to be going to Ottawa, Anaheim, Toronto, Buffalo. Like I had a list of them, but there was a finite list. Nowadays, you just have to click your phone on. You're bombarded with millions of opportunities to get that information about the possibility of your future. I couldn't imagine how sick I would feel as a player having zero control, because you're an athlete. You control your diet, you control your focus, your discipline. You don't control your career at this point. It's in the hands of someone else that you hope makes a good decision for you.
And with that, what do you guys communicate amongst each other? Like as that going on, do you try to like just get away and hit a bar or just go to somebody's house and relax?
Well,
at the same time,
you don't need to be a trade deadline for me to go to the bar.
Fair.
I know you're
fair. Who else are you inviting with you?
Yeah. Are you trying to get guys focus off it and get them at ease?
Yeah.
I think as a player, you gotta watch what you're doing and be available all the time. Make sure that, sad to say, but if you're going to a new team, you have even a bigger onus on you to make a better impression on that team, right? You're coming in, you're having to fight from ground zero to get the attention of the coach that's now going to decide whether or not you're going on the ice or not, right? So you have to be at your best from the drop of the puck when you come in there. So there's that. And there is that level of like wanting to step away, because let's be honest, guys like you, Pags, making guys' lives miserable with like putting out all this information, like it weighs on you, and you want to step away as much as you can to step away from it. So I think guys do anything they can to get their minds off it. The best time around trade deadline is to be on the road. Pack a bag and not have all the goodbyes and the sorrow and the emotion involved with it. Get your call. You're in the hotel. Your bag's already packed. You go to that city.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Rip the Band-Aid
I just
off.
want to leave with this. You lifted the cup 3 times. Looking back now, what did the younger version of you understand about what it truly took to become a champion in this league?
Oh, I would tell you discipline. Here's the thing. If I have regret that, I have regret. It's not going to come out correctly. When I won the 2 cups, I was an afterthought. I played with, beside me was Lidstrom, Konstantinov, Faceoff, Murphy. Laundry list. At times I had Hall of Famers going down. I played with Koff. I played with Howe. Ramsey, name them. You feel like you don't have much to contribute to the situation. Although in '97 I played with Bob Rouse, and we were the last pairing, and we played virtually every game. The level of discipline that goes into it, you don't understand until you step into it. And I think that is my understanding in 2006 to what it takes to play this game. And the discipline comes down to putting aside every facet of your life at the cost of everything. Your family, your friends, your personal anything. It goes by the wayside because basically you're cocooning yourself with 20 other guys. And you're in for the long haul. And I know symbolically people grow beards and mustaches and all these things in order to kind of symbolize the fact that you're all in and you're putting all things aside and not worrying about them. That's the truth of where your mental state is when you get to the playoffs, the teams that win are the ones that overcome, right? Injury, adversity, whatever or however bad, and I know it's going to resonate poorly, but like if you think about the number of times that teams are down 3-0 and the fact that there are teams that have proven to be able to come back and win it, there's a level of belief in yourself and your team and the group that has to stay inner because there's a lot of criticism in the playoffs and anticipation of criticism for what you're not doing in that moment when it really matters. So I think for me, the understanding as I got older was, hey, this is nothing that anybody that's not on the inside couldn't ever understand. Winning a cup is one thing. Sharing that experience with all those guys, knowing like Doug Waite is out there lifting the cup with a separated shoulder and he didn't play the game, but he's showing up at the normal time for the game time, trying to make sure that everybody feels like this environment is under control, that it's normal. There's Doug Waite, even though he's not playing, he's going to sit and he's going to hang out with the guys as we all get dressed, go out for warm up. So everything is kosher. Everything is the same and it all feels normal.
Great parting words. I'm just
cool.
trying to tie a bow on the last decade. 2 playoff series victories for this Maple Leafs team. The window slammed shut on a Stanley Cup, and that's what we've got to hang our hat on. 2 series
the perspective
victories.
is this. Sometimes you have to burn things down to get bigger, thicker growth in the forest. And maybe this is what, and pun intended here with Maple Leafs, it's an opportunity for them to get a harder look at their team and maybe a more realistic look at their team.
I like the optimism, Wardo. That stash is looking great. You're looking great. Thank you so much for doing this today, and we'll chat soon. Okay, bud?
Thanks, guys.
Anytime. That is Aaron Ward. I like the breakdown there, especially on the whole. The first question I thought was riveting, but the way he answered it, I think it made a lot more sense for those of us who are not numbers-driven people. Just what it did to not have Mitch Marner in the lineup, I think opens up a bigger conversation. And I think he's right. They didn't replace that type of player and what it meant for the other guys on the ice. And I thought that's a different approach that you don't get much in this market, sort of the breakdown numbers-wise as to what not having Mitch Marner did to this franchise.
Well, yeah, and I said it the last time I was on with you, like there's 4 top 6 forwards. You have 2 holes. And one of those holes is that facilitator. It doesn't mean you have to go out and get another 80, 90, 100-point guy. But what that player was capable of, what he is capable of, is setting up the play so that it makes life easier for Auston. It made life easier for John Tavares when they played together, and so on and so on. To have that puck possessor, that facilitator, that playmaker, and the vision that he has in those scenarios, it's not easily replaceable. And they didn't do it. They didn't come close to it. And that's been a big factor, obviously, in the lack of success this season. You can build up the bottom six all you want. If you're not having those guys at the top, it's going to make life difficult. And, Wardo described the other intangibles and the numbers element to the game pretty precisely.
By the way, it looks like the Leafs will be sticking with the same lineup. So Nick Robertson and Troy Stetcher project as your scratches. And I called this Jersey boy Anthony Stolarz in the starters net. That makes a lot of sense. I thought he was good against the Flyers the other night. You hearing anything as we wrap things up over the next couple minutes? I know you've been on your phone quite a bit, but I do vividly remember doing plenty of shows with you on NHL Network Radio where you're barely part of the conversation. So not shocked.
I chimed in as much as I could. Just league-wide stuff. Nothing really Leaf related. Connor Garland talks continue with the Vancouver Canucks for those interested. Boston and the Islanders are and have been 100% part of this, but it might be going in a different direction for Vancouver if they do end up moving Garland. And Kiefer Sherwood is nearing on a 5-year extension, I believe, with San Jose. So they're still firming things up. Nothing is done yet, but it looks like it's getting to that point.
That was a sick goal he scored last night. The Khrushchev pass was unreal. That was a fun hockey game. Montreal and San Jose last night. That Macklin Celebrini, man. It's like when you can't want more from a guy, you watch that guy play and you're like, how is this happening? Where, Pete DeBoer was in another network yesterday or a couple days back, and he was talking about the process of how Celebrini was picked for Canada, where he went from like an afterthought to a mainstay to a guy on the top line. But this kid's unbelievable. Like, I mean, the future is Celebrini and Schaefer in this league. It truly is. And just what San Jose's been putting together over the last couple of years is really impressive. I had a lot of fun watching that game. Neither Montreal or San Jose can get a save, and that's important moving forward, I think, too.
Yeah, that's going to be a key part moving forward, like you said. But these are two up-and-coming teams. Like the Habs are doing a little bit better overall right now than the Sharks, but these are two on the rise type of teams in the NHL with the amount of young talent that they've got, and there's longevity there for a lot of them. So, man, it's too bad those teams only play twice a year because it was also physical and like they didn't like each other halfway through that game, and you could tell. Someone took a run at Dobesh too. After a play, just knocked him down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember who it was, but like the blood was boiling, and that plus goal after goal after goal and back and forth, that was a hell of an entertaining hockey game.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Dave, we got some breaking news via the Maple Leafs here. Chris Tanev underwent successful core muscle surgery today in New York City. He is expected to fully participate in training in September. So as you've been bringing up the last couple months, there was a contemplated surgery. He's had the surgery, Chris Tanev, done for the season here.
And given the direction of the team and where things are going, it just made sense. Like he tried to prolong this. He was on the ice during the Olympic break to try to get back into it. And it just proved to be a little bit, it proved to be a little bit too much. And then B, couple that with the fact that this team just isn't going in the right direction and will be selling off pieces. Shut it down, fix yourself up, get ready for next season.
Well, I think that should be a team-wide sort of approach right now. You're done. You're not making the playoffs. If you need surgery, if you're Matthews, Nyes, Willie on the groin, like I don't care who you are. If you need surgery, I want you ready for training camp. I want you ready for game one of the next season. So I'm actually happy that we all knew this is coming. We knew a surgery was coming for Chris Tanev. I'm happy they took care of it now. And training camp, we'll see what happens in September. But if you can get a healthy, in quotations, Chris Tanev for game one and certainly training camp, I'm happy for from that perspective. But I can't say I'm shocked by this news today, especially knowing where we know about the Maple Leafs in the standings right now.
No, this was expected. This was the fact that he took the ice during the break was just, again, to see if, you know what, maybe I can just keep this going. Maybe I can wait until the offseason before I do that. But then you have to weigh how long that recovery process is going to take. He's getting surgery. He had surgery today. We're in March. I don't even know. I can't think that quickly. But 4 or 5 months until camp or less or whatever it is. Well, it doesn't matter, whatever the hell it is. It's going to take you a while to get back there. So if you're going to have that surgery in May, then you're not ready until October, which means you're likely missing camp. Then you're going to have to get into it. So at least you give yourself this time to properly heal over the summer and be ready to be participating in training camp. It just made sense to go in this direction and amplify that with the fact that this team is just tanking, not intentionally. That's just the direction they're going. So be it.
His last game, December 28th. The other thing that this tells me is just how much of a warrior this guy is, that he was willing to play through this, try to get back in this lineup. If you do recall, post-Olympic break, he was skating with this team. And I don't put it past him. If the Leafs were in a conversation right now that they're trying to make the playoffs, I think Tanev's playing right now. Teams need more.
That's what he was trying,
Tanev.
yeah.
It's pretty crazy what this guy will put himself to win in this league. And it's a rarity in this day and age. Let's just call a spade a spade. You don't see that very often anymore.
Well, no, you see that quite a bit in hockey, dude. You see that.
I don't know. Sport, not the same as it was back in the day, Dave. Come on.
Well, there were other circumstances back in the day, but now, just look at playoff time. Look how many guys play through injuries like you wouldn't believe, and then you find out during the Cup final or after the Cup final, this guy was dealing with this, he was dealing with that. You're going, how did he play with that? And this isn't the NBA where a guy gets, the ball goes off his finger in the wrong way and he's out for 3 months. This is different.
Again, the breaking news here as we wrap Leafs Morning Take for this Wednesday. Chris Tanev, done for the season, underwent successful core muscle surgery today in New York City. As per Leafs PR on Twitter, he is expected to fully participate in training in September. So we all knew it was coming, and they're pretty much waving of the white flag from this Maple Leafs organization. It's time now for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get in on the game. Use code NATION. That's NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. Must be 19 or older. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you're someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. Any bets specifically you like for this game tonight? I guess Matthews and Jack Hughes are being reunited following the Olympics. The Devils played last night. They hammered the Florida Panthers. Anything you like tonight?
Yeah, I'm going. We were talking about Nyes earlier. I like him tonight. I'm going with an anytime goal from Matthew Nyes tonight. I think the Leafs pull it off, and then because of the back-to-back with Jersey, wouldn't surprise me if they don't. But I've got them on the money line tonight, and I think Nyes is going to light the lamp.
I will go with it's a tough call, but Matthews has to score at some point in time. An 8-game goalless drought, hasn't scored since January 27th against Buffalo. 1 goal in the last 12 games. He's going back to just blending in. It's great stuff when he makes that much money and he's the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but so be it. Aaron Ward wants to trade him, and I think some people are on board with that conversation right now. Dave, great stuff today. Great reporting, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of days. I let people know where we can hear you, see you over the next couple of days leading into Friday too.
Yeah, we'll just check out DFO all week, is the rest of the week as well. I'll be on the sheet later today with Merrick talking about some of the stuff, and then of course we've got our trade deadline show on Friday. Jam-packed. We're in studio. We got people all over the place. I'm secluded to a desk in a corner or something like that. I'll chime in every now and again, just pop my head in whenever something happens. But it should be a lot of fun. 11 to 3:30 on Friday. So that should be good. I'm hoping I got all my Tims with me. I'm going to need a lot of that for the next few days.
Definitely going to need a lot of Tims over the next couple of days, because I know you this time of year, you don't really sleep. Just talking trades and texting people and getting information and sources and info. So we'll keep a tap to your social accounts as well. Great stuff. We look forward to the Leafs Devils. Again, don't forget the Leafs Nation After Dark tonight with Zach Phillips. I'll join the show, and we'll break down Leafs Devils, more so talk about the trade deadline and talk Leafs Rangers in the back-to-back. So all that's coming up. Thank you to Aaron Ward for dropping by. I'd mentioned earlier on this week that we didn't connect with Brian Burke on Monday. He's coming up tomorrow. I've rescheduled with Brian Burke, so he's on tomorrow's edition of Leafs Morning Take. So is Jay Rosehill at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Thank you to producer Vic. For Dave Pagnotta, I'm Nick Alberga. We'll talk tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.